What's up, guys? Swift here, and I wanted to give an update on players that the Chicago Bears have confirmed top 30 visits with, as well as a list of players that we met with at the Combine. Let's get right into it. First, we're going to look at confirmed top 30 visits. Just in case you're unfamiliar with the term, they're called top 30 visits because teams only get 30 players that they can bring back to the team facility and do one-on-one meetings with. So every year, teams get 30 visits that are longer than combine interviews and allows teams to get to know players better. Last year, the Bears brought in Darnell Wright, Jervon Dexter, Tyreek Stevenson, and Tyler Scott, all for top 30 visits. Out of the 10 picks the Bears made in 2023, 4 of them were brought in for top 30 visits, including the first 3 players drafted in rounds 1 and 2. Also, the Bears met with Roschon Johnson, Zach Pickens, Tyson Bagent, and others down at the Senior Bowl, and they spent more time with Darnell Wright and other guys. So top 30 visits and interviews are important. It's important to note they will interview guys that they're going to pass on as well. The Bears also brought in Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson, Broderick Jones, and others for top 30 visits in 2023. So now let's look at the confirmed players that the Bears will bring to Halas Hall this year. So far, we only know 10 of the 30. Let's check those guys out. On offense, we start out with USC quarterback Caleb Williams, Washington wide receiver Rome Odunze, West Virginia center Zack Frasier, New Hampshire running back Dylan Labe, and Yale offensive tackle Kieran Omegadije. And then on defense, we have pass rusher Dallas Turner from Alabama, and cornerbacks Jeremiah Pritchett from Auburn, and then Elijah Jones and Cam Hart. So far, we have 6 offensive players and 4 defensive players. A pretty good balance, but still 20 players that we don't know about yet. Caleb Williams is most likely to be our pick at number 1 overall. That meeting is happening this week. Rome Odunze is a surefire top 10 pick, and a guy I think would be a steal if he was still on the board at number 9. Brock Bowers is one of the best tight end prospects in years, and a guy a lot of scouts have as a top 10 overall player. I doubt we draft a tight end this high, but we did bring him in for a meeting, and he could be used primarily as a big slot receiver early on in his career. This is one to take note. And then Zack Frasier is a center that I love, and the Bears seem to like him too after talking to him at the Senior Bowl and meeting with him at the NFL Combine. They still wanted to get a top 30 visit with him as well. I love Frasier's wrestling background, and he's my number 2 center in this year's class. As soon as I find out more big names that we're meeting with on top 30 visits, I'll get those out. But on the defensive side, the Bears are meeting with Alabama's defensive end Dallas Turner, a guy who could be the pick as well if he's on the board at number 9. And then they met with a couple later round cornerback prospects. That's interesting considering our depth at the position. I do not expect us to draft a corner, but maybe they're counting on one of these guys going undrafted. This is an early list, but the Bears will start hammering out these top 30 visits starting this week, and I'll update the list going forward. Right now, only 10 players are confirmed, but the Bears also interviewed a ton of players at the Combine as well. Let's check that out. And here we see the list growing, and you start to see a bigger picture of what the Bears are looking for this season. At the Combine, they interviewed 5 quarterbacks, at least 4 to 5 receivers, a few tight ends, a handful of offensive tackles, and a bunch of centers. I believe there were more centers and receivers that they met with as well that didn't make it onto the list. And then the Bears seem to have met with much less players on defense, but note this list is unofficial. This is something I put together watching a ton of Combine interviews and compiling tweets. This is not like the top 30 visits. At the NFL Combine, every team gets to interview 45 players. This list only has 31 players, so that means this is 31 out of the 45. A couple other guys I believe they interviewed with, I imagine they had to meet with Marvin Harrison Jr. as well, but information on his meetings has been hard to find. And then I also think they met with Arkansas center Bo Limmer. But this list gives us a good idea of some of the players that Ryan Poles is looking at and lets us narrow down the positions he's eyeing. Keep note though, there are another 10 plus players that they met with at the Combine that are not listed here. But going over this, they met with all 5 of the top quarterback prospects, some of the big-time wide receivers, some of the top tackles, and they checked in with a lot of the centers, including my guy Jackson Powers Johnson, but also Cedric Van Pran, Zack Frasier, and my sleeper center Hunter Norzad. The Bears also met with Oklahoma center Andrew Rame as well, and like I just mentioned, possibly Arkansas center Bo Limmer. But then onto the defense, they met with three of my favorite pass rushers, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, and Darius Robinson. They met with some defensive tackles and then a couple of other guys on the defensive side of the ball as well. This list makes it seem like the focus should be on offense, but 10 or so of the players are unknown. Those could all be defensive guys, so let's not overrate that too much. But let's look at the positions he did look at. Quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle, center, and defensive line. Those should be the focus of this draft. We already knew that a new quarterback was coming in. I think most of us believe that's going to be Caleb Williams. And then I think most of us agree that receiver, offensive line, and defensive line are the positions that most of us want to address. I love that Poles is at least scouting and taking this center class very seriously. I do like Coleman Shelton. I think he can come in and be a good starting center, but he's on a one-year deal, and we need to fix the position long-term. I at least want a developmental guy with some upside. Doug Kramer has not been the guy. And then I think we can all agree that we need more weapons on offense. Yes, DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, along with our two tight ends and DeAndre Swift, give us an awesome starting point on offense and more weapons than Justin Fields ever had, but I think we still need more help at wide receiver. And this draft is perfect for that. It's one of the deepest wide receiver drafts I've ever seen. I honestly wouldn't even mind trading a pick from next year's draft, one of our second rounders or a third rounder, to acquire an extra pick this year just to land one of those stud receivers. And then I think we need more talent in the trenches, both on the offensive line and the defensive line. We can always use more help in the trenches. I think it's pretty clear we need more help at defensive end and along the offensive line. I do expect Ryan Poles to address that this year, but I don't know if we have enough picks to fill all the holes, and I would rather help our young quarterback than put more assets into the defense, at least this year. But things seem headed in the right direction still. Even with all the discourse this offseason, the future has never looked brighter for the Chicago Bears, and tomorrow is the first day of April. NFL draft season is fully underway. We're just a few weeks away, guys. I couldn't be more excited. Thanks to everybody who watches the videos. Please remember to hit that like button for me. Stay tuned, and until next time, bear down.